where there are extremes, you really do have to come out with a really powerful message.
Well, that's one of the Vermont women pictured here, posing naked in a viral photo campaign.
The movement has gotten support and backlash from around the world. The group called the campaign Grab Them by the Ballot, and it got a lot of attention during the November election.
Now it's trying to shift momentum. Channel 3's Galen Ettlin joins us now. And Galen, the campaign's leadership is expanding. What are they trying to accomplish?
Well, Celine, Darren, it's now officially a nonprofit, and it's recruiting some big names to rally their cause. They say even for the people who disagree with their methods, the message is part of a bigger conversation.
A flash of inspiration and snapshots in a small Burlington yoga studio.
You know, standing full frontal, representing all kinds of women, and that's democracy.
It was the beginning of a roller coaster journey for Harvard law grad Dawn Robertson. Her photo campaign called Grab Them by the Ballot.
Women mobilizing together.
Grab them by the I can do anything.
A direct line lifted from Donald Trump before he was president.
When he made that statement, I was pretty profoundly impacted by that.
Pushing Gina Higgins to put everything on the line and for all to see.
I felt obligated because we are in a very controversial time.
Everything had to be covered.
The UVM Medical Center nurse and mom to 6 joined Robertson and 8 other women posing nude.
It was just very liberating.
Covered by ballots and props to challenge the ideas about women and their bodies.
This kind of over-sexualization, this kind of okayness with being able to approach a woman in a sexual way when that kind of, it's not being solicited.
The campaign, partially inspired by the Me Too movement, also about much more than rallying votes.
Having our physical appearance essentially be a huge part of how we're perceived and what our value is.
Perhaps the intent is to make conservatives so disgusted they give up on democracy entirely.
And just before the election, a crash course through a national media firestorm.
I'll never forget sitting there at my laptop and just exploded.
From Fox News to Breitbart to Daily Mail UK.
It just won't let it go, and it's old news.
To conservative bloggers around the world.
They could have at least picked some nice, good-looking liberal women.
Judgment was swift.
This illuminated exactly what this campaign is about. Hateful commentary, basically about physical attractiveness.
And they ended up really exposing the underbelly of America and the naked truth, you know, the irony of it.
You're uniquely qualified to look at the issues of gender. What are some of the misconceptions that you saw exposed through this campaign?
I think the issue here is around taking gender out of the equation, the idea that beauty and attractiveness has anything to do with what we bring to the office or the political issues.
It's an area that resonates with Christine Hallquist, who made history as the first openly transgender major party nominee for governor. During her Vermont campaign,
the reactions were amazingly the same.
The comments and hate kept coming.
You're ugly as a dog. You're no woman.
She says although she can laugh it off now, she has seen this treatment deter other women from seeking higher office or speaking up on the issues.
Who's got the contacts?
So now she's joining the new nonprofit's board, lending voice to future campaigns and helping others achieve what took her a life's journey to find.
It's really taking ownership. It's seizing who we are.
It empowers women, just seeing other women do that.
For Dawn Robertson, she hopes this journey is just beginning. From here, she hopes to use her nonprofit and viral platform to boost visibility of women in politics, support for sexual assault survivors, advocacy for women's reproductive rights, and much more. And despite the social media backlash,
Put clothes on those cows.
These women have even stronger resolve.
I hope that as a culture, as a country, we can move into a deeper way of interacting.
Oh, I'm not messing with that.
Good.
To reach outside the frames they're kept in.
And finding tools to heal. And I do believe that education and mobilization and voting is a tool.
Shining a light on bias, not always visible to the naked eye.
We were interested in movements like this one throughout history and how they resonate with people both negatively and positively. So tomorrow we'll speak with UVM professor Dr. Galen Ettlin, who specializes in politics and civil rights, about these messages and their impacts. You can join me here tomorrow on your Channel 3 News at 5:30. We follow up now on our story of Vermont women getting naked to make a big statement, with so many of you responding. The Grab Them by the Ballot campaign went viral last month before the election, and now the group is trying to expand its platform. Many of you had questions about why these women took this approach. Dr. Galen Ettlin is a professor at UVM, specializing in politics, civil rights, social movements. Joins us now to talk more about movements like this. Thank you for being here.
Oh, I'm happy to be here.
When I first reached out to UVM about this, you reached out and said this is right up your alley. What spoke to you about this movement?
Well, one of the things that I focus on, that I've always been very interested in, are protests, and why people will go to what some people might think of as extremes to get their point across. And I'm particularly interested in things like when people actually use their bodies as part of the protest. So any major civil rights march, right? Well, part of the impact of it is that all of these bodies are moving down the street. All of that sort of strikes me as really interesting.
Now, a lot of reaction, strong reaction across the board, both negative and positive. I want to take a listen here to a clip criticizing this campaign, and then I want to get your take.
Sure.
This has got to be the biggest trick that has ever been played on feminists, that if you strip naked and you pose for pictures, then you're somehow advancing the female cause. Maybe third wave feminism is the best thing that have ever happened for men.
Obviously, that's an opinion-based program. I'd like to get your academic take here. That view that women getting naked doesn't help them, it's just for men to look at. What's your response, and where have we seen this play out before?
Well, if we believe the legends, sort of Lady Godiva is the first person to ever use her body and use her nakedness towards political ends. She rode through Coventry naked, being covered only by her hair, as a way to convince her husband, the king, to pull back these heavy taxation. And the legend is that he said, I won't do this until you ride naked through the streets. And so she did. And lo and behold, the legend has it that taxes were eventually repealed. I mean, we can find all kinds of moments where women use, and not just women, men as well, but often women use their bodies to push for political aims.
When I published this story, got a lot of response on social media about it. A lot of people saying, I understand what they're trying to do. They did get our attention, but I don't like that they had to be naked. Why were they naked? Is there another way that this can be done, or is that really the point? That's
really the point. All right, so nudity we find fascinating, and we find it provocative, and we find it inappropriate in some ways. Publicly. So we don't have nude beaches in this country the way that they have nude beaches in a lot of places in Europe, for example. And so as long as nudity itself is provoking to us, then it becomes a place where people can try and grab that fascination we have with it and use it to focus our attention. But it's because it got attention that it moved conversation onto the subject.
Now, these Vermont women posing in these photographs say this was largely inspired by the Me Too movement. For some people, they say that's an era of scary accusations. Others say it's long overdue. Where do you see that taking us in the future?
Moments like Me Too, we should think of as matches. If you light a match and there's nothing for it to catch on to, you just, a few seconds later, the fire goes out. But if you light it in the right circumstances, you can cause a bonfire, you can cause a conflagration. So we're having conversations now about sexual harassment and the price that people pay for daring to be women. When Trump makes a line about grabbing women by the blank, and women respond to this by saying, if that's how you want to talk about us, then I'll take that imagery and I'll use it as part of my political protest, cover pieces of my body to sort of bring that whole notion of women being reduced to these bodily elements, and I will use that to make a point about the importance of the ballot, about the importance of the Me Too movement and sexual harassment. I mean, that's just playful political imagery.
Well, thank you so much for lending your perspective and being here today.
Oh, you're very welcome.